that a World War II Marine would give. In the first year, by Christmas, over 700 veterans, friends, and family had either called or came to see me. I was blown away. I couldn't believe that it made that big of a difference for all of you. Because I was just one man trying to do the right thing. I'm just a regular guy. Okay? Fast forwarding to the next year. I decided to make a website called fightforourfreedom.com. www was not available because I had to pay $5,000 a year and didn't have the money. That being said, I did it because I thought it was the right thing, because I had been invited to a funeral for a veteran that had passed away after I wrote the letter. And I was stunned. I was shocked when I got there. Just the whole response of the family was just way more than I could handle and imagine. And I decided this was what I wanted to do with my life, and I still do. It's an amazing feeling when someone that you never served with or never served at all calls you brother and means it. There isn't many civilians that get called brother by police or veterans and actually mean it. You'll find that's a very sacred thing. Being invited to a funeral of a veteran is even more sacred, and so is being invited to the renewal of vows for a wedding. I've had both happen in the last 3 years of my life, and it's been one of the most pleasing journeys I've ever had. That being said, when I started the website, I started getting emails. It's great for what you do for people in your country. But they would be from other countries. They were allies. United Kingdom, France, Australia. It didn't matter. They were our team. I then decided to look up and see how many American nonprofits support more than just America, and I was astounded by the fact that all of us were thinking the same thing that we say. Americans for America. But if these people live and die for us, just as our veterans do, then why? Why don't we support them? Why don't we care more? Australians fought alongside us, the British fought alongside us, the Canadians fought alongside us, the French fought alongside us, even the mighty IDF in Israel that fought their own war against multiple countries and survived, fights alongside us. Thank you, Tony Lopez, for your input tonight. I just saw your chat. It's so amazing when people like you reply. It's what makes this nation great. As I've said before, we never had to make this nation great again. She was always great. We only had to find our way, which is exactly what I intend to help her do. My job is to educate America on the cost of freedom. The website then took a turn for the better in supporting 5 countries I had not yet added Israel. In February of 2016, I was informed by the man who runs my account, at register.com, by the way, that he is a Canadian veteran and reached out to his American veteran superiors, and they gave me www for free. Now, that's a big chunk of change. I wasn't asking for that. They just wanted to do it. They liked the cause. I'm still with them. The site is temporarily down, by the way, folks, because I'm going to restructure it at the end of the week. I used to pay $40 a month to do this. I have to pay more because I can't manage it. I spend more time meeting all of you and telling you thank you, than I do editing a site. And it needs to be done better. It needs to be better managed by people who are behind what I do 100%, and that's why it's down. So tonight is also about there's going to be a changing face on the website. When I say a changing face, I don't mean I'm changing. I'm always going to be here, but the way things look will be different. It's going to be a lot more professional when I'm done because that's what I want to do. I wasn't happy with just me editing, and I didn't have enough time. If I spent 10 hours a week, maybe it would be okay. That being said, Fight for Our Freedom is now at Fight for Our Freedom Radio. Earlier this year, I met Brian Big Country Conwell, and I honest to God don't remember how we found each other. I just know that he offered me to be on his show. Thank you, Tony. Yes, it was wonderful. They are an amazing group of people. And if anyone ever runs a website, definitely register.com would be the way to go. They're not always the cheapest, but they do have the best support, and that's what counts. That's why finding a team of veterans that are behind what you do at a company is more important than money, because it's part of the cause. So Brian Big Country Conwell and me met, and he talked about me being on his show one day. Now, understand that I've spoken at speaking engagements at the Legion and things like that in front of 100, 150 people, but being on the radio or podcast made me really nervous. So I really wasn't sure how it was going to go, and I honestly, after I hung up from Skype with Brian that night, wasn't sure how it went. But Brian didn't give up. Brian wanted me to be on his network and have my own show. And that was probably a week or two later that all of a sudden Fight for Our Freedom began. It's been 18 weeks now, and I gotta say one thing. God bless you, brother. Every time I talk to you, it's an honor. We don't talk a lot all the time because I'm running 3 jobs now. Was recently hired by Cabela's of Greenville because of what I do. They've been trying to get me in for 6 to 7 months, and they finally found a way. It's a great team in Greenville at that store, and it kind of blends in with what I do. I meet more veterans at that store than I've ever met at any of my jobs. I run anywhere from 70 to 90 hours a week now, 3 jobs, and I spend every day trying to meet at least one veteran, one new person I haven't met before. And every time I walk into Cabela's, I think I walk out of that store with a minimum of 5 to 15. And that's my goal, is to tell them that simply, I love you for everything you've given me. If you ever need anything, call me. The number to reach me is 864-610-4047. It goes straight to my cell phone. If you don't get me, I may be at one of my jobs. Cabela's doesn't necessarily allow me to answer the phone. Please leave a message. I will call you back. You can also text me on that number. I will receive it. www.fightforourfreedom.com will be back up Friday. It may temporarily be back up as the old site, but it will soon be back up as the new site. Thanks to Cabela's and the job, I can now afford to pay for a better site. This is all coming together the way that I wanted it to, because it's not just about Americans for America. It's about Americans for freedom. It's about Americans doing what Americans should do, with heart, the first time, the right way. Everybody talks about how America should be the number one country, or America is number one. If we're number one, then we have to be the leader in God, the leader in decency, the leader in morality, and the leadership must be just and decent. We must be a leader, a premier leader in supporting our veterans and the veterans that support our nation, which means it can't be just Americans for America. It has to be Americans for freedom, regardless of what nation they serve. They serve our nation, which is a nation under God. Following forward, I'm now going to play a little bitty clip, about 10 minutes, of the Pacific and Guam. Not the Pacific, the show, but actually evidence about Guam.
July 21st, 1944. In one of the biggest gambles of the Pacific Campaign, an American invasion force attacks an island heavily defended by nearly 19,000 Japanese troops. Marines and GIs struggled to recapture this enemy stronghold and its tactically vital airstrips and harbor. The offensive becomes a grueling fight for honor as these battle-hardened men attempt to liberate what was once American soil. The island would soon earn its place in history, written in the blood of the men that fought and died here.
There was a unwritten code: no prisoners, no quarter.
You had no sympathy whatsoever for the enemy. Actually, and I hate to say this, the more you killed, the better you felt. But that's what we were there for.
High above the chaos fly aerial reconnaissance missions, their cameras capturing the battle below. After the war's end, many of these photographs were lost or forgotten, until now. These images now give a unique view of these 21 days of combat. The battle for Guam. December 10th, 1941. 3 days after Pearl Harbor, over 5,000 Japanese soldiers invade Guam. In less than 24 hours, the American garrison of some 400 men is forced to surrender. It is the first American territory to fall to the Japanese in World War II. 2.5 years later, these 225 square miles of rainforest and ravines, surrounded by coral reef, have become strategically vital in the war in the Pacific. If Guam's airstrips can be recaptured, American bombers will be only 1,400 miles from the Japanese home islands. B-29 heavy bombers are currently operating out of China with heavy losses. Flying from air bases in Guam would be a safer alternative, taking 1,200 miles off this deadly trip.
Guam was part of the Marianas Campaign, in which the United States decided to assault 3 islands in the Marianas, Saipan, Tinian, and Guam. And the 3 together would put a dent, a serious dent, into the inner ring of the Japanese defense system.
The liberation of this island would also free some 20,000 Guamanians from Japanese rule. Many of these American nationals are indigenous Chamorro Indians. Under a brutal regime, they have suffered unimaginable atrocities, leaving hundreds dead. With Guam back in American hands, these loyal people would be safe, and morale back in the United States would be raised. In the months before the invasion, aerial reconnaissance experts examined thousands of photographs of Guam. For the first time, these original high-resolution images have been layered over a 3-dimensional contour map, creating a unique perspective on the battle unfolding below. Stage by stage, the battle for Guam can be tracked from the air. Spearheading the American assault are over 50,000 American Marines and GIs preparing for the attack on troop ships stationed just off the island.
The officers particularly impressed us with the fact that we were going to be the first American troops to recapture a previous possession, and since it was a Marine barracks, it was especially important to us.
The old Marine barracks was there. What was left of it, they were going to, recapture that, and we felt good about that. Everybody was gung-ho to get in there and liberate Guam.
Before we hit Guam, they showed us movies of the rape of Nanking, what the Japs did to the Chinese, and that's like getting us up. We were emotionally ready to go kick some butts.
The Japanese planned to turn the island into a lethal hellhole for the invading forces after spirited words from their war leader, Hideki Tojo.
The fate of the Japanese Empire depends on the result of your operation. Inspire the spirit of officers and men to the very end. Continue to destroy the enemy gallantly and persistently.
We respected them because they would fight to their death. And that was a trait that was admired, but also sometimes it was stupid, particularly would kill themselves. But that was kind of good.